Hello there, everyone. It is me, yet again. Now, you might notice that there's something different about me. Well, let me tell you, I went to go see the biography film about Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. As a Queen fan, this is amazing in so many ways. And I'm going to talk about my feelings about the movie. There might be spoilers. I'm going to try not to give spoilers. I don't want, although I might. My enthusiasm might accidentally give spoilers. So I'm going to make sure I double check that. So let me go ahead and tell you a little history about my experience with Queen. Uh, Queen was, I always say that Queen was my first mature band that I grew up with. There was a time when you grow up with teeny bopper music, what other people will call it. So you're just listening to what is on top 40 radio of the day. And so in high school, first, and it's so weird. Thinking back, I ended up getting the Platinum Collection, which came out in 2000, but I ended up getting that album around the same time Queen was getting a second wind. This is when they were going on tour with Paul Rogers, and that was around 2004. So it's around 2004, 2005, 2006. Actually, I would say 2004 or 2005. I end up getting the Platinum Collection of the greatest hits, the first three greatest hits from Queen, and that was my introduction to Queen. And the funny thing was, I had no idea why I even got the album. So I'm telling you, this is one of those experiences where something tells you that you must have it. I see it and I go, yes, you must grab this. You must actually own this. I don't. Why? I don't. I just. It's just saying. You must have me. You must have me. Take me now. And you just do. You just take it, and you have no idea why. There's no expectations for this album that you got, and yet when I heard it, it's funny. The first song I heard was Bohemian Rhapsody on the first disc, and something in my mind said, I something reminds me about this song. I feel like I heard it before, but I don't know exactly when. But it's one of those moments where you did experience it, but your memory's not clear enough to know the details when you heard it the first time. But it's like something in the background, but you never really pay attention to it. So from then on, from that point forth, when I got that album, I became a Queen fan. So as a Queen fan who then absorbs all this information and all this history about the band, it was strange how the rest of the world adore Queen. They appreciate them for the musicians that they were. But yet America seemed to be the missing piece from giving Queen worldwide recognition or the full praise that this band. It's so weird because it felt like something was missing. As a Queen fan, it seemed like historically Queen should deserve more. They should have that great praise that every other rock and roll band gets. It felt like Queen was a legendary rock band that didn't have the musical Golden Globes. Like it seemed like they just didn't have it. And yet, when 2004 happens, when they go on tour with Paul Rogers, when they get their second win, it seemed like the tides were turning. And it seemed like now, of course, the world, but more specifically America and the people who didn't want to give the credit to Queen were now giving them the credit and saying, yes, they do belong to be on that Mount Rushmore of great musical bands. Because by that point, I mean, everyone was, for some strange reason, everyone was just accepting Queen into their lives. And like it's like everybody knew the songs. Everyone knew Queen's music as much as they knew the Beatles music or Mozart music or Beethoven's music or Louis Armstrong music. Yeah. So it's amazing that a band like Queen, that you would never think in a million years would get this kind of treatment, a biography film, yet they get it. And yet, not many other musical bands, forget rock bands, musical bands, really don't get that kind of treatment, especially in this day and age where you can build it up and make it into a worldwide media event. And so it really is a unique experience for Queen fans, I believe, to just have this movie made and to go out there, experience it, and celebrate it. So there's my lengthy introduction. All right. So now let me go ahead and start talking about the film. And I want to tell you right now, I have notes here, and I got some pros, I got some cons, and I have a overall impression of the movie. Did the movie deliver? Was it great? Was it a good movie? Was it a good Queen movie? Exactly what was going on? What were my feelings and thoughts about it? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. So let's start with the cons, because as one person says, I like to get the cons out of the way because it makes the pros and makes the good things feel more important after you do the cons. So let's get the not so good stuff out of the way. And there's only a few on here too. So let's start with the cons. So the first 20 to 25 minutes of this film felt rushed. I was leaning back in my chair and watching the beginning of this film and saying to myself, I hope the movie doesn't go like this. I hope we don't end up with a movie that does this format where it's rushing to pivotal story points in the story, and then it cuts to a montage of the band doing some musical performance. It's weird to describe it unless you actually see it. The way they introduce some characters, it feels rushed. The way they introduce a specific moment in the band's career, I mean, the early point in their career, feels rushed. The way I can't believe the way they actually put the titles on the screen, because you would think, because I believe that titles are in a way a fanfare for a movie. When you see the titles come on, it's like, but da blah blah blah, and you go, yes, that's, you want that, especially with a film about Queen. This should be lights up, sparks, musical backgrounds. You know, the lights should be in solid gold letters, just shining like heck. And yet, when you see the title of the movie, it looks like someone just slapped it on. It's like, that's it, a plain white text, and that's the title of this film. Really? I mean, people don't build up titles anymore for films. I mean, they do with some films, but not every film. And I think, especially for this film, you should have had a glorious fanfare title to appear on the movie screen. But so I just feel like at the beginning of the movie wasn't given the time to actually breathe, for the movie to take its time to develop the characters and to slowly develop the important moments of the band's life and career. Because you watch that first 20 25 minutes and you go, man, that's just, it's sloppy, and it's like, ugh, what the heck? Like, I can't, but yet it seemed like when the second act came up, by the time when they get to the point where they start making their Night of the Opera album, things started to slow down. The pacing started to slow down. The film took its time, and they started to slowly develop the characters and the moments more clearly and with a lot more detail. And so that was my first gripe. I was in a shock. I'm like, okay, I hope that if this movie goes on like this, we're not going to be in for a good ride. And next is something that people have pointed out, and it is a factor in this film. That is, historical accuracy is a mix match. Some of it, what they portray in the movie, some of the historical details sometimes they're out of context, sometimes they're made up, sometimes what they show in the movie is not true. The fact of the matter is, they the movie had to tr- um, really pick and choose what kind of information it wanted to show. So there were big details, story wise, that the movie showed. And then there were smaller details that the movie wanted to show too, but it didn't have enough time to show that it didn't have the movie didn't have all the time in the world to show all the details that were a part of the Queen story. And so I think you get the important moments and you get the idea of what is going on in the story for the characters when they show these important moments for the film. But then there, yeah, for someone like me who's read a lot about Queen's story, I could tell when something was fact and when it was false. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's kind of true. Well, that's false. Wait, that didn't happen. No way, that didn't happen. So I was definitely pointing my finger and saying, nope, that's not true. Nope, that's not true. So that was actually my only gripes with the film, because if there's one thing I have done over time, I've really paid attention to the way story structure is applied, how the writer constructs the story, and I have to thank the Twilight Zone for that, to keep an eye on detail as a writer and to see if that works or not. All right, so now let's get to the pros of this film. Now, let me start off by saying that the lead actor who played Freddie Mercury, I do not want to pronounce his name because I know I'm going to get it right. I'm going to say it anyway. Raheem, I know I messed it up already. Mikel. Okay, you can correct me on that one. His portrayal of Freddie Mercury was great. It was great. It was good. He actually, one thing I noticed was that his portrayal of Freddie went through an arc. He started off as a young kid who was flamboyant, flashy, and he didn't have the experience that he would later have. Then he became careless, and he wasn't being the loyal band member that he had to be. And all the what was so great about his portrayal of Freddie Mercury was that I think Freddie Mercury was shown as a real human being. Because I think over time, I think the legend of Freddie Mercury has made him into this kind of larger than life character. And so you can lose track of the person, the actual human being who is who he was. And I think this movie, if there's one thing I have to give it kudos for, is that when I saw Freddie Mercury on the screen, I felt like I was watching we got to know the person and who he was, and not just the rock star. I mean, we got that for sure, but we also got the person who had emotion, who had feelings, who went through a lot of drama. And so definitely, and there were also times too when, especially when they were giving a press conference, when this guy was Freddie Mercury, the 1980s version with the mustache and the short hair, there were moments when he actually looked like he absolutely looked like Freddie Mercury, a dead ringer for Freddie Mercury. And so, and sometimes when he would look off to the side, a side profile, he looked like Freddie Mercury then. But I think the only thing about him was that, well, while Freddie Mercury, if you compare Freddie Mercury and his actor, the actor had a much more pointy face. The actor had a much more pointy face. Freddie Mercury face was not that pointy. That's the best way I can describe it. But now you might be saying, well, what about the other band members? What about Roger Taylor? What about Brian May? What about John Deacon? Now they didn't have as much. They didn't have as much detail, and the film didn't dedicate a lot of time to them. But what was done with the rest of the band members, I thought they did a fine job really making the rest of the band likable. They had a reason to be there, and they didn't feel like throwaway characters. You felt like each each member of the band, like the guy who played Brian May, he had personality. He had his moments. The guy who played Roger Taylor, I feel Roger Taylor was the one guy who kind of got shafted. He's there. I just like he didn't really have his. Well, he did have one great moment with a rooster, but that's all I'm gonna say. So he had his great funny moment. I just feel like the guy who was Roger Taylor, didn't really have much to work with. But then Roger Taylor was still great. But then there was John Deacon. And one thing I was always pondering, how are they going to handle John Deacon? Because John Deacon, it kind of gets glossed over when you talk about Queen as a band. It's like, oh yeah, like, cause like the regular person on the street wouldn't know that much about John Deacon. I mean, I know what about the other band members? Yeah, besides Freddie Mercury, but John Deacon was kind of like the black sheep. Like, were they gonna do something special with them? Was he gonna be a thrown away character? Was he just was he gonna be there in the background? They actually did a lot of stuff with John Deacon. He was pivotal. He was vital, and he had his moments. And yeah, like I thought they were going to give the shaft to John Deacon, but they didn't. And so I was really surprised by that. And so what moments and what little screen time the rest of the band members had, the actors delivered. They made those other band members feel vital and significant to the scene and to the overall story, the overall movie. And so that's a good thing too, because it wasn't just Freddie Mercury and the rest of the band. It was everybody. All right. So then what else is there? Whenever you had a musical moment, you couldn't help but just clap to the beat. I was always doing something. And I was with my niece too. She brought her boyfriend with her, and it was a nice family outing. And I can even see, there were times when I'm seeing them shaking their leg, or they're clapping along, they're holding out their arms. I was doing some of that too. It was hard not to get excited when a musical moment happened. The musical moments delivered, rightfully so. And even though it's funny because they play like Bohemian Rhapsody like 3 times, and you go, I think that, like, yeah, of course it's in the title of the film, but you would think, okay, if you play it like multiple times, at some point you're going to get sick of it. But they put that song in specific moments that, you don't feel like it's coming out of nowhere. It feels like it's put in the right place. And even though they play it 3 times, you never get sick of it. And then there is the drama of the story. And like I said, the beginning of the film, it's rushed. It doesn't quite work. You don't get a sense of, like, in fact, you get a sense of what the heck is going on, because there's so much stuff that's fat going by the camera. There's so much that's happening. It's hard to construct everything. Like, wait, what's this? What's that? Like, it feels rushed. That's the best way I can say that. But everything else that happens in the film, the dramatic quality of the actual film, I feel like I feel like the drama that this band went through, I felt like I understood that. I felt like what they were trying to deliver on a dramatic level, it was done very well. I don't think, like I said, when it comes to the historical facts and the historical information, the film is it semi delivers. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it makes up stuff. So you don't get quite a good sense of, like, exactly what was everyone thinking, what exactly was going on. But I feel like the drama that was done in this film, it really did make you invested in what the characters were going through, and that there was some actual serious drama happening. And it felt like it didn't feel like it was an afterthought. It didn't feel like, oh yeah, well, they just put it in there to make this seem important. It didn't feel superfluous. It felt like there was a purpose for it. And And the one thing I will say about biography picks, because this is a biography pick, uh, I feel like when you make a biography pick, I think there's certain rules that you have to follow. Well, personally, I think there's a certain format that one would follow to make a successful biography pick. And I said this before in the past. Uh, when you make a biography pick about a famous person, a well-known person, um, I feel like the important thing is that you have to, we as an audience, we have to see a story where we find out why that person did what they did. What motivated them to create the work that they did? And why was it so important for them? And why was it so important for them to let the world know about it? And I don't necessarily think you need to dedicate a lot of time to the actual work itself in the story, in the biography story, because as an audience, we already know what that information is. But I'm not saying that you should never show the creator's work in the context of the story. I'm saying that you can give a little bit of information, but just don't dedicate a lot of time to it. But I can understand from a filmmaker's point of view why they want to sometimes over explain things and give a lot of detail to small elements, because maybe this is uh, people's first time discovering a band like Queen or a historical figure, and they don't have the background information before they go into the movie. So that's why they want to kind of tell everything that they can. So I can understand that, but I feel like especially with a musical group like Queen, I feel like it's easy to know a lot about the band and especially what they've done before you come and see the movie about their lives, because we already know about the music, but we want to know about the people, and what they did, why did they do it, and why was it so important. So my overall impression of the movie is, I think it's a fine tribute to Queen, and it's a nice way to introduce people to Queen who are not familiar with Queen. And I think if I see this movie a second time, I'll probably have a better appreciation for it. Because I just because I was telling everyone who I left the theater with my thoughts about it, and I told them, I thought it was fine, it was okay, it was a fine film. But I think in hindsight, as time goes on, I think it's probably going to be a much more effective film than when I saw it on first viewing. And so I think I think it's gonna hold up a lot better over time. And I'm just glad to say that I was part of a Queen event with other people who went to go see the movie with me, who were also Queen fans. And just, I mean, who would have thought in a million years fans of Queen could say, "Oh yeah, I went to go see a Queen film." Yeah, because I bet you didn't think that was going to happen. No way. No. So if you're curious about Queen, if if you think, well, why should I go see it? I mean, yeah, they're going to play the tribute, um, the Live Aid concert. So Why should I go see that? Why should I see the movie at all if I'm already familiar with all of these important events that like I already have the band on video. I already have the band on disc. Why do I have to watch it again as a film adaptation? And my feeling is, I understand that. But you know what? I don't think there's any harm of seeing another interpretation of Live Aid. Because I feel like Live Aid, like even when you watch this is a spoiler, Live Aid is in the movie. When it comes to the Live Aid scene, like that Live Aid, that moment was there's so much magic and such greatness to it. It doesn't matter if you just hear it, if you just watch it, like no matter, like, so what if there's another interpretation of it? What if there's another way of watching it? It's just, you cannot never have enough Live Aid. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let me start going out of the review right now. I think I said enough. And to all you out there, I hope you enjoyed the film and definitely check it out if you are curious about Queen. So, thank you for watching. Take care and good night.